This episode of the Nerd Corporation podcast may contain spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, nerds.
Talk about nerds.
Hey, this is Rob Weedoff. I play John Marston in Red Dead Redemption.
Hello, this is Jen Cohn, voice of Farah from Overwatch.
This is Waka.
This is Barry Bostwick, Brad Majors, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
This is Manu Bennett, Deathstroke, the Terminator.
It's Mike Zeck, designer of the black suit Spider-Man.
This is Jay Muse, Jay from Jay and Silent Bob.
This is Paul Nakauchi, the voice of Hanzo.
This is Carlos Ferro, the voice of Dominic Santiago in the Gears of War franchise.
This is Big Bang Michael Lasky. You might know this voice as one of the original Red Power Rangers, as well as Colt from Three Ninjas.
Hi, this is Angela Kinsey.
What's going on, y'all? This is Mega Ran, teacher, rapper, hero, Writers Guild affiliate, and new Guinness World Record holder. Just want to let you know, you're listening to the Nerd Corporation.
You are listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast.
You are listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast.
You're listening to the Nerd Corp podcast.
You're listening to Nerd Corp, and it's a podcast.
Listening to Nerd Corp Podcast.
And you're listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast.
You are listening to the Nerd Corp podcast.
And you're listening to the Nerd Corp podcast.
You're listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast.
You're listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast.
You're listening to the Nerd Corporation podcast. Snooch to the news.
Justice reigns from above.
Ryuga waga taiki wo kudo.
Sup, bitches? Chit chat.
Welcome to the Nerd Corporation.
What up, everybody? It's Thursday. You know what that means.
It's the day that earlier today I read the 4 worst combinations of words that I could ever read. So I was upstairs and I was eating lunch, and you know, like the little mini magazine inserts that come with like the paper every day?
Yeah.
One of them had this guy on the front, and I was looking at it just kind of like, because I glanced over, and the headline describing the article had the words, "Country Music's Top DJ," and I was just like,
what?
I like almost threw up in my mouth for a second.
How does that even work?
Way to combine two terrible things.
I don't fucking know, but
you gotta get that twang, bro.
Twang.
Yeah.
You don't have the twang. Twang.
None of that. It's podcast day.
Well, I mean, it's that too.
I thought we were going to do the hokey pokey.
That's not what it's all about.
Oh, well,
my doctor told me that I can't shake anymore.
I know I heard somewhere that it was.
No, it's
my
not.
Doctor told me it's not what it's all about.
No. Welcome to episode 71. That's life. Joker Spoilercast. We are going to remind you there will be spoilers.
Massive spoilers.
All of the spoilers.
There will be blood.
Spoiled.
Spoiled blood.
We fucking killed somebody.
It doesn't keep
Please
well.
help us.
It doesn't.
We don't know what to do with the body.
It doesn't keep well.
So last week we all went to see Joker. And boy howdy.
Well, you guys went. I got fucking separated.
But we all ended up going.
We really should have thought of that and bought our tickets earlier in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I was back in the line and I was gonna hand like one of you guys my money, but it probably wouldn't have done.
Well, there was one that was right behind us that was free.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I just sit next to fucking Steven Glansberg.
What?
Fucking pudding cup.
Super bad reference.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do we all think?
It's I mean, I hate to piggyback off of what you said already, but it's easily my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree.
I think that it is a little artsy fartsy, but just the right amount for a comic book movie. I feel like this is kind of something that's definitely more up my alley than the other, like Marvel movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But god damn, does Joaquin Phoenix fucking steal the show.
He really does.
Like, holy shit. Like, every fucking moment that he's on that screen, he's just taking it away from everyone else.
Good, because, I mean, he's the titular character, so it's fine.
You know, when the trailers and everything, and because I remember watching the trailers, but until, like, the main trailer, I don't remember hearing anything about Robert De Niro being in it.
Oh yeah, I did not remember that.
So I feel like Robert De Niro being in it is kind of like an homage to the movie that this is directly inspired by. This movie is like almost kind of beat for beat fucking Taxi Driver, and that has Robert De Niro in the titular role. So I think that they're being a little cheeky with that.
It's also a bit of the king of comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And I know we've already like discussed a bunch of this like amongst ourselves, but I'll say again for the episode that I loved how they had two of my favorite comedians like made a cameo in that movie. Yeah, Gary Goldman, who was doing his he was the one doing the role playing bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark Maron was like in it for like 2 seconds as like Murray's stage manager.
Yeah, stage manager.
His like handler or whatever.
And then I couldn't tell if the guy telling the sex jokes was anyone noteworthy. I think he was just there for a filler.
Yeah.
That would have been cool if that was somebody too.
Yeah, I do love Gary Goldman though.
Oh, he's so great.
He is.
So we start the movie off with
a goddamn dog.
With a goddamn dog.
Knock it off.
We start the movie off with Joaquin Phoenix applying his makeup and like kind of forcing a smile on his face.
That iconic thing that you're seeing throughout like everywhere where he does with his
where he hooks his cheeks over. And apparently that's like a nod to like where the Joker actually got his origin, like in the comics. There's a movie called The Man Who Laughed where a man decided to torture his son by making him wear a permanent smile. Like, he disfigured him by making him wear a perfect smile.
Okay.
And so, like, that's reminiscent of the character Gwynplaine, because he does the thing for him, like he hooks his...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So...
And he's obviously distressed
in
this moment, because he's crying and his makeup's getting smeared and everything dripping.
Mm-hmm. And so he decides to, go off to work and stuff. And a bunch of kids come and take his sign. And they lead him on this chase, and then they end up, like, leading him into an alley and whooping his ass.
And they broke the sign over him. Like, one kid was hiding, and he was running down the alley, and they just
whacked him.
And this is one of my favorite shots of the entire movie already, is him, obviously rolling around in pain in a super fucking, at this point it looks like it had been raining a little bit, so the alleyway that he's laying in is damp and wet, and he's just kind of rolling around and holding it looks like his crotch because he got kicked in the dick, and it does this insane fucking shot where it's like it's only him in focus, and it like added this it looks like it added depth to the alley.
Yeah.
It's fucking cool as hell. Like, the focus is on him, but everything else is out of focus, but it still looks like it, like almost kind of like he's got a long road to go. I think it's fucking really cool.
I mentioned it when we were out smoking after the movie, kind of talking about it, where because he gets shit kicked on two different occasions. We'll get to his other one here in a minute, but when he gets and both times when he gets his ass kicked, he's not like in anguish visibly. He's just laying there like, fuck, here we go again.
Well, and not just that, but like he's really not attempting to fight back. He's just like laying there taking it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. Exactly. He never yells. He never exclaims or anything like that. He just kind of takes his ass whooping. One of the things that I really liked was that, like, his laughter was a condition.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He suffers from pathological laughter, and it's always in the most like inopportune times,
like it
or
seems
inappropriate.
It seems like when he's feeling stressed is when it comes out the most.
Yeah,
like
when he's in distress is when it occurs.
Yeah, like the scene where he goes to the comedy club and he's laughing at all the offbeats of the joke. I feel like in a way he's stressed out because he doesn't really find any of this funny. Yeah. And and you can tell because he's got a notepad there and he's writing down stuff like, oh, sex jokes are funny, make sure to remember that.
Yeah.
And he's just like taking not really detailed notes on other comedians, but he's like
he's trying to understand
exactly
something that he doesn't have the capacity for.
And I feel like this scene's kind of like open to interpretation too, because like maybe he finds other things funny too. Like he's just like finds the build up to a joke funny as well. I don't know. I find it really cool. But at the same time, like it makes more sense for him to be a little stressed out because he doesn't find these jokes to be that funny. So he's like, he desperately wants to be a comedian because his mom's told him his whole fucking life. He's like, hey, you need to make people smile. You need to make people laugh. So he's like, for some reason, he's still got this, for a majority of the movie, he holds on to that dying wish, basically, that he basically holds on to that dying wish of his mother, like, hey, I really want you to be a light in the world, don't be a darkness, because a big thing in this movie is the setting is 1981 and Gotham City is just rife with fucking people that are severely unhappy. They really
like they're at a tipping point.
Yeah, like riots are going on. Like
there's
crime is
all over the street.
Crime is an all-time high. Like it's
references to Jared Leto's Joker. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna fucking talk about Leto. Yeah. I'll tell you what. But it's like there's so many different things that's going on during the movie where it's like, okay, this is not a fucking fun place to be. Obviously, kids stealing your sign and kicking the shit out of you. But at the same time, you being a man that gets the shit kicked out of him by a bunch of kids, it's not fun. Gotham's not fun at this point in time.
The cool thing about that setting too, where there's like trash all over the street and stuff.
Yeah.
And in New York, in the same year, in 1981, there was a garbage workers strike. And they were on strike for 17 days, and there were literal garbage piles on the street.
Okay.
So they went in on like a lot.
So it's kind of steeped in realism.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In history.
Well, Gotham's always kind of been a nuance of like New York City, anyways.
Yeah.
Like, and then what do you have? Like Metropolis is maybe more like somewhere in like Chicago? California or something like that. I want to say. Really? Maybe Chicago?
I was thinking more Chicago. I always kind of maybe thought that Metropolis was still fucking New York. But I don't know.
I mean, yeah, they could
maybe
both be playing
maybe a more idealized version.
Yeah. Of it. Yeah, because there's hardly any crime.
Yeah, so it's almost utopia-esque.
Utopian.
It's a booming metropolis.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. And so we continue. He goes home. He checks the mail, and he gets into the elevator, and that's when we meet Zazie Beetz' character. And she's with her kid, and they're going up the elevator, and the elevator kind of like wobbles a little, and she's like, "Oh, this place is awful." And the little girl is just like, "It's awful, Mommy, isn't it awful?"
And she does the
finger gun,
the finger gun to the head, implying that she's so unhappy that she's
just done,
like she's fed up,
like that minor inconvenience.
But like that's another part in which you can tell, like, and I really like how they did this, where Arthur wants so badly to have a connection with someone that any sort of attention he gets, he overplays it and takes it like way beyond, like this was just like and he like
way beyond like the social limit.
Yeah. And so now it's creepy and weird and too much because he's hyper focused on that one single thing.
So this is kind of like really my only misstep for the movie is how they handled this character. Not necessarily in how the actor played the role or how she's portrayed or blah 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 whatever. And I don't really know when we're gonna get into it, but we will get into it. But there was just like a halt, like running into a fucking wall. It felt like where I'm like that wouldn't have fucking happened. Yeah. Like that totally broke me out. Like, and it kind of almost spoiled one of the bigger revelations of the movie near the end of the film, where I'm like, oh yeah, of course, like because none of that was fucking real.
They could have gone into it a bit more naturally.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is it could have been done better.
Yeah,
like, and obviously we're talking about the instance where it's like the fucking second or third time that they've met or that they've seen each other, and all of a sudden they're
like
having sex.
He goes to the door and knocks on the door. She answers, and he just starts making out.
This chick is really fucking hot.
Yeah, and
he's
him
looks like a fucking outpatient from a mental hospital, which he is. So it's like. I'm just saying, like he fits that appearance, and it just didn't make sense to me. Where it was like, okay, obviously either this chick's a fucking saint or
I mean, it makes sense for him to have delusions like that.
It does,
but for
the whole sex thing
for the viewer, it would have been nice to see more of a gradual, introduction to that.
Like honestly, if they would have just taken 5 steps back and just had him, like, they could do the slow pan and like the slow motion of him going up to the door and going in, but like how they handled it where he goes in and immediately grabs her by the face and starts kissing her, implying that sexual things happen. I don't like that at all. If they would have just went and said, okay, hey, you want to come in? And then he just goes in. I really wish that that's what would have happened.
So that part that you were talking about, I think that makes more sense because of the fact that later on we find out that it's a delusion. It makes more sense to the way that it happened because
that's what he saw.
That's what he saw happening. You know what I mean? Like it's not what we're supposed to see; it's what he sees and how he perceives the situation.
And that makes sense too because the scene before that is the subway. Club. The subway scene where, and we'll get into that, but like obviously that bloodlust almost kind of seems like it was a little bit of an aphrodisiac for him, and now he's like, okay, now the blood's pumping.
It kind of makes me wonder if the scene on the elevator was something that he wanted to see, or if like that was an actual interaction.
I think that was a real interaction.
I was thinking about it like actually today, getting ready for this, and I was like, okay.
Well, and not only that, it's her showing that little teeny bit of kindness towards him. Yeah. Where now he thinks like, okay,
that put it in his head in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's the catalyst for all the delusion.
The teeny little amount, because keep in mind the guy's getting shit on by literally every fucking person in his life.
Aside from the midget at the clown place, like she's the only person. And his mother. And his mom. But aside from those two, like she's the only person who isn't his mom, who is female, who has shown him even just the most tiny amount of attention.
Which, by the way, I love that they got. I can't think of her name, but she's in like all the American Horror Stories that plays his mom.
Yes, she is. Yeah. She does really, really good in that.
She's
too.
Great.
I mean, like obviously, there's room to go into this a little bit more, and I'm glad that they held back. Because like there's the weird scene where he's like bathing his mom and everything, and I understand that's a norm for some people. Like obviously parents grow old and you got to take care of them and stuff, but it's not really something that anybody ever wants to do is bathe their mother.
Well, it's like
you know what I mean?
Saying,
it's just weird.
It's like talking about when Eddie said you see what he is seeing. Yeah. It kind of makes sense because then when you find out about his mom more on later, like she was not healthy at all. Because she looks like she can maybe get around and stuff like that, but then you find out like when he finds her case file later that she was just fucked off.
So is it before or after it's before he gets his ass kicked by the kids and the sign and everything that he goes to see the shrink, right?
That's right.
So when he goes to see the shrink, he's sitting there having a cigarette. He's talking about something normal, something menial, and something that a normal person would talk about. But his caseworker or it's really weird because she doesn't come across as someone who's just a by the book therapist. She almost kind of seems like
she is a caseworker because they get shut down by the state later.
Exactly.
So she was probably assigned to him.
I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure someone will prove me wrong. But I feel like, she is kind of, at this point, I envision a wall, right? Like on one side of the wall we have Arthur, who's just like living in a fucking fantasy, and he's got he's trying to pretend like he's fucking normal. Like he's talking about normal things. I can't remember what he's talking about, but he's not talking about the fact that he's fucked in the head. And then on the other side of this wall is the caseworker, and she's sitting there just talking like, let me see your book. Let me see the book. You still have the book I gave you, right? The notepad? Hey, let me see what's in your notepad.
And it kind of throws him off. He's like, did you just fucking hear a word I said?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he doesn't exactly explode until the end. But he's sitting there he's trying to change the subject a little bit, but he's also become incredibly distant at this point. He's kind of crawling up a little bit and kind of getting into a defensive mode. Like he doesn't want to show this pad to her. And then eventually, he gives the pad to her, and she starts scrolling through, and there's all kinds of not really violent images, but super sexual images in there.
And there's stuff is really hard.
Out,
really hard.
There's lots of suicide things in there. What does it say? It's I hope my death makes more sense than my life, but not. He spells sense as in
CENTS.
Yeah, instead of SENSC. So it's supposed to be a joke, right? It almost kind of seems like that's one of his jokes that he's going to write.
See, it almost came off to me like that was just him trying to make the word sense, but he didn't. It almost came off to me like he's not super educated, maybe didn't know how to spell it, but now that you're saying it like that...
Yeah, because that's what I thought is that
just to play on words.
I thought he was trying to make a wordplay joke, but I mean, it's still disconnected. It still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's no setup to it.
There's no setup to it. It's just a phrase by itself.
It's very obvious that he's just thinking of killing himself.
Speaking of the content and everything, did you notice that when he was at the club, trying to gain his composure, and he picked up his notebook and he was scrolling through it, there was like a Playboy page pasted in there that he just turned past really quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and not only that, but there's a moment in that first moment when he hands the book over to his therapist where she turns the page, and it's really fast, so you can barely see it, but there's a page of him drawn a naked lady with her legs open and shit. So
I didn't see that.
It's pretty fucked. His notebook's pretty fucked up, and you can understand why he gets pretty defensive on why he doesn't want to show her. And and going back to whichever, I think it was you that said that he's like, you weren't even listening.
Yeah.
There's very obviously a disconnect between this. He starts talking about between those two characters. I mean, because he's trying so fucking desperately hard to be normal. And she's just sitting here going so there's the disconnect between the two characters, obviously. She's sitting there going okay, this guy's really fucked up. And then he starts kind of easing into talking into, hey, okay, here's my mental issues. He asks to have his medication doubled, which is really weird. She rebuttals with, hey, you're on 9 different types of medication. That's probably not a good idea.
See, well, and I feel like also, even though she is trying to keep him on topic and so on and so forth, I feel like at the same time, she's kind of just going through the motions. She's not really
trying
to help
She's
him.
not committed.
Yeah, she's not trying to help him. She's
doing
not
her
concerned
job
with him. She's just there because she's supposed to fucking be there.
I really like this character because she doesn't have a very big role in the movie, but she kind of just goes to show how fucked up he really is. Where it almost kind of seems like she's tried like every trick in the book to try with this guy.
Is this the same session where he actually comes out and says you haven't been listening?
No,
or is that later? Because
I feel like that's a flashback.
Because is that when he says you asked if I have negative thoughts?
All I have is negative thoughts.
Yeah, that's the
second one.
That's the second session. Cool thing about the Notebook.
Yeah.
Todd Phillips gave it to Joaquin Phoenix like a couple months before the movie started, and he's like, just start writing shit in there that you think Arthur would write. So everything that's in there is all Joaquin Phoenix's handwriting.
That's uncomfortable because that's how you Heath Ledger someone.
Well, especially that part where he talks about mental illness in it. Like the thing.
Yeah,
what does he say? The funny thing about mental illness is that everybody expects you to act as if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or about having a mental illness.
Yeah.
There's so many great fucking lines in this movie. So yeah, I mean, just kind of ending on the therapist. There is that, obviously there's that moment where he asks her like, you ask me if I have negative thoughts. Joaquin Phoenix makes a cigarette look like one of the best fucking things on this planet. Like,
that's why as soon as we got outside, I was just like,
there's so many great shots of him having a cigarette, and I'm like, oh my god.
And those are like poignant, like they're like almost essential to the character.
Because I've never been having a cigarette and looked at it and just been like, oh god, this looks like it's amazing.
Well, just like the way when he delivers that all I have is negative thoughts line, like he's like kind of have it out like this, and he's like doing this, like and flipping his wrist, like all I have is negative thoughts.
The shots that I love are of him like having the cigarette, because it's like he's having it, but it's almost like he just forgets that it's there, and you can see the ash is just like building up, and he's like he smokes it just like, I don't even do this, but he smokes it like clear down to the filter.
That moment when you said that he was writing down like the mental illness joke, like that shot, like it's obviously it looks like it's filmed like in a doorway that's pointing to him, like he's in the dark, all he has is a little lamp and he's writing down stuff in his book. Like that shot right there where it's just like illuminating like a little bit of him, but you can just see the smoke going up in the lamp. It's this movie is fucking shot like really, really well. Like every moment that they wanted to point out grime, they did. Every moment where they wanted to point out like corruption, they did. Like there's so many like. And I feel like people aren't really talking about that. I feel like that's like a really underappreciated part of this movie.
Agreed. We get introduced to Pennyfleck, which is Arthur's mother, and she is just run down and like
raggedy.
She is a shit show.
Well, it's implied that she has health issues.
Right, yeah. And she had some health issues. She has some mental issues. She has.
But see, we don't really know about the mental issues until later.
And we don't know about the health issues either. Like they don't really make a point.
They don't go into it.
We just know she looks frail and weak and
yeah.
Because I wouldn't imagine that she's like old enough to be like dying of old age.
Right. And so like I really liked her character because it was just like one of those things that keeps Arthur grounded enough for him not to fly off the handle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's so obsessed with these letters that she keeps writing to Thomas Wayne, which is Bruce Wayne's father. And, she's like, he's a good man. If he knew what we were doing, if he knew how we were living, he'd change it. He would change it because
he'd do something about it.
And doesn't he keep like saying like, why? She like dances around it.
He's really cynical about her and her letters, and he's always just like,
because I mean, at this point, all he knows is that she worked for him.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, she probably had some kind of heart condition that he was like, that they were like, he's probably taking medication for it. Because obviously later in the movie she has the heart attack.
She has a stroke.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so we still really don't know.
So just unhealthy living.
Yeah.
So she's just frail because she like smoked and drank and shit. And the abuse, obviously, that we'll get into later.
Yeah, and so she... she's really just obsessed with all of this, and he's just, trying to be like, well, Thomas Wayne isn't going to listen to us, and she's like, but he has to. And, that relationship always revolves around that. And I think that that was really cool, like, for her, just, like, seeing the desperation, seeing, like, you already know something's up before it's up. Like, why is she so worried? Why is she so adamant to.
Yeah, but they play that point really well and so low key to the point where I never thought anything of it. I always kind of thought like, okay, she just thinks the world of Wayne.
That, and I mean, she had worked for him for years, and so like it makes enough sense that why wouldn't you appeal to this power who could at the snap of a finger just lift you out of poverty, and someone you've had a working relationship with, like that all makes some sense. But yeah, Arthur doesn't understand why she is so hell-bent and intent that Thomas Wayne would help them if he just knew what was going on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and she just seems really just like we've all known people like this where they have an idea in their head and then they just keep rolling with it and rolling with it and rolling with it, and apparently I just found that this was really cool, and it's kind of a little minute detail with Arthur, and like you said, is he kind of just dances around it to the point where the audience feels like it's not really that big of a thing,
right?
Like it's like, okay, she thinks it'll help. Like maybe some people thought like, okay, that's a nugget. Like that's a nugget of information that can be built upon later. Or it's like maybe he does give up or give in and just finally go talk to Thomas Wayne and say like, okay, here's my mom and blah blah blah.
After that, I think it's what is it? We go back to Ha-Ha's where he works. And his boy Randall, he's just like this big, balding, fat clown of a dude, and he's like, "Man, I heard what happened with those kids. Man, you need to protect yourself." And he gives him a gun, and he's just like, "Hey, you can pay it. You can pay for me later. You can pay it back later."
So initially, I feel like this guy was trying to be a pal and trying to help him out.
Right? Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
But then when it was his ass possibly on the line,
he decided to like cover his tracks.
He covered himself,
Well, at this point in Ha-Ha's, it seems like, and it's confirmed by the boss when he gets called into the office, like, hey, nobody really feels comfortable around you. Like everyone almost kind of thinks like you're a fucking ticking time bomb.
And then even the boss, he's like, I don't know why, but I like you. He says, he's like, I like you. I don't know why.
He's like, you're weird, but I like you. Nobody's comfortable around you, but I keep you around.
I feel like he's a good clown. He's a good clown. Like he knows what he's doing. He's got the repertoire down. Like he's got the makeup is really good. He's got good rapport with people.
Sociopath, he knows how to go through the motions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he gives him the gun and everything's all peachy. I can't remember what happens after that.
Don't they pretty much go right to him in the hospital later?
Yeah, like there are a few things. Yeah,
where the gun falls out.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think we go back to his house. I think, and that's the scene with Zazie Beetz,
right?
Where she knocks. Oh shit! Well, we missed the whole part about how he followed Zazie Beetz to her job.
Yeah. Right.
So he follows her to her job, and then he goes back. The whole thing at Ha-Ha's happens. He goes back home, and Zazie Beetz knocks on the door, and she was just like, "Hey, you were following me." Like,
so do you think that this part is made up?
This part is a delusion.
I think this part is a delusion too, because
he wanted her to come over and like.
Well, and not just that, she wasn't like, "Were you fucking following me?"
Yeah,
she was being coy and sort of sexual about it, like, "Oh, you were following me."
Because then when he made the joke where he's like, "I could come rob the place. I have a gun now," she like laughed at it. Like nobody would like.
Yeah.
Like.
Not only did she laugh at it, she was just like, "Oh, you're so funny, Arthur."
Yeah, that's when she says that.
That's your point. Yeah. You felt like, okay, there's something weird about it.
Yeah, like that at that point, because nobody says, "Oh, you're so funny, Derek," or "You're so funny, Nick."
What are you trying to tell me?
I think you're not funny.
A lot of people say that to me, alright? I'll have you know.
Right, but they don't call you by name, you know what I mean?
Delusion now.
I think it is.
Like they don't call you...
It's like that Seinfeld episode where the chick just goes, "That's so funny," instead of laughs.
Right. Like,
But yeah, they don't like say my name directly.
Right, yeah, they're like, "Oh, dude, you're hilarious."
Like it was very clinical, like, "Oh, so and so, You are so funny.
Right, and that's what led me to believe that this might have been a delusion, is because, like, nobody really talks like that. Not even back then, nobody.
That's funny that you picked up on that, because I didn't at all.
But if it was real, and let's say it was a real thing, and she was, like, kind of on the fence about falling for him, she may have been, like, said his name directly, because that's kind of something that might have happened if that were the case.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, if somebody, you know, who your only interaction with them has been the finger gun
to the head, yeah,
and then they follow you around literally all day, you wouldn't be like, you know, I sure could fall for this guy. Like,
right.
That's not really the way that's gonna go.
But maybe again, that's what he was wanting to hear and see. You know?
Well, yeah. So that's why that's why it definitely lends to this is not fucking real.
Right.
So from here out, where do we go?
There, I think from here is the hospital scene.
Yeah.
So he's putting on a show for a bunch of sick kids, and then all of a sudden his fucking gun falls out in the middle of all these
they're
kids.
singing If You're Happy and You Know It, and it comes to a part where it's like, stomp your feet, and he stomps, and his gun falls out of his coat.
Yeah.
And he tries to pick it up, but he, like, kicks it across the room, almost, like, comically, but not intentionally comically, you know?
Yeah.
And then he puts it away, and then he just goes, shh. And, like, all the kids start laughing.
As if all of the fucking adults in the room didn't see
the
fucking firearm fall. And he does play it off really well.
Yeah.
Like when he's getting chastised by his boss and everything, fired. When he gets fired by his boss and later by detectives, they're like, yeah, it's a prop. It's part of my act. Like, I believed it. Like, if I didn't fucking see the real thing that would happen, I totally would fucking believe it.
Yeah.
And not only that, like, the fucking Joker in the animated series and everywhere else has a gun that it's a fake gun that shoots out a fucking flag that says bang. Like, you know, maybe kind of a reference to that.
Mm-hmm. Before the hospital scene, we have Arthur sitting around in his living room, kind of just dancing around.
Oh yeah.
And he has the gun, and you know, he's like, he's got his arms over his head, and he's like swiveling, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" you know, and he's like, "Oh, my name's Arthur. What's yours?" You know, "Oh, you're a really good dancer." I know.
I do.
I was gonna mention that I hadn't mentioned yet, but I just love how, and I haven't read anything about, you know, what he did, but just how fucking grotesque he looks, like, without a shirt on. Like, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah,
how he got into that.
Sickly.
Yeah. And then, you know, after that, then we got, you know, the hospital scene, and then he gets fired.
Has he already shot the gun in the living room?
Yeah, he shoots. When he's dancing, he shoots the gun in the living room.
Because he's like, somebody's talking to the girl that's talking to him, so he's supposedly...
I'm watching a war movie.
He's got like the what's his name, Robert De Niro's talk show on. He's like, I'm watching a war movie. He just turns it up.
Yeah, that's going back to your point about his body. Like, there's some like really really memorable shots, like of him at the Ha-Ha Club, and he's
tying up his shoe.
Well, he's stretching out the shoe to fit, and his left arm, like his left shoulder, like looks fucking dislocated because it's like he's
his shoulder
so
blade
hard.
is like sticking up out of his back.
Yeah.
I was in the theater just like,
doesn't really make a lot of sense, but at the same time, like, it's just kind of like further emphasizing the point of like him having this mental illness.
It fits the movie for sure.
And then obviously him doing the dancing and like his rib cage is very like very
prominent.
It's very fucking noticeable. Like, the guy doesn't really eat or sleep or do anything of self-care at all.
Right. And then from there we get to the subway scene.
So yeah, he gets fired, obviously, because a fucking firearm fell out of his jacket. So we go to Arthur in a phone booth. You know, obviously he's getting fired by his boss. He's being told like, "Hey, what the fuck do you want me to do? Obviously, I can't keep you on because that's obviously." And then he's, you know, pleading like, "Hey, I really love this job. I'm really good at it. Please don't, you know, blah blah blah." And that's it. Like, he got fired. And then there's this...
Well, and then he smashes his head,
it's the crazy scene where he's like, he hangs the phone up, like, kind of calmly, and then all of a sudden he just fucking smashes his head in it, and it, like, fucking smashes the whole phone booth. But it's... and then after that, we get to the fucking phenomenal scene in the subway.
Yeah, so, he's in the subway and he's just kind of sitting there wallowing. And there's a girl sitting a few rows in front of him, and these three, dudes in suits come in, and they're, they're
harassing her.
Yeah, they're typical bros, and they're
drunk as shit.
They're drunk as shit, and they're like, dude, we could have stayed, that girl was totally gonna bang me, and they're like, nuh-uh. And then, one of the guys is like, hey, what's up? You want some fries?
Yeah, just has a random bag of fast food.
And he's, she doesn't want any.
And she very kindly declines.
Yeah,
she's trying to be as nice as she can because she knows what is going to happen.
Right, and she's like, no, thank you. And, the dude's like, well, what's wrong with you? He's being nice to you.
Surprise.
You're right. They're like, what's wrong with you? He's being nice to you, on some real incel shit.
Why won't you take his seed?
Yeah.
Some real red pill shit over
right, like, I'm being nice to you, milady. Might I have a crumb of pussy?
Exactly.
A crumb of pussy. Like it's a fucking bakery
don't
good.
you now owe me a crumb of pussy?
Right.
But I mean, he's throwing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Then he
it devolves to him throwing it at him and making fun of her and shit.
And so Arthur's uncomfortable with the situation, so he begins to laugh. And this is what I noticed a lot about Arthur's laugh, is that when he genuinely wants to laugh at something, he does the high pitched cackle laugh.
Yeah, like when he's laughing in the club.
Yeah, like when he's laughing in the club, he desperately wants to laugh, so he goes. You know what I mean? Or
that was pretty good.
Yeah. And so when they laugh at the little person, you know what I mean? He does the same thing. And so, but when he's uncomfortable, it's this deep
and it looks like it hurts.
Yeah,
too.
He's covering his
painful.
mouth.
and he he'll start to not really gag, but go
yeah,
he's trying to hold it in, but he won't let it.
And something also to note at this point is he's still in full clown garb. So he's still got his ridiculous fucking shoes. He's got, he's dressed up like a clown.
But also to note that he's not in Joker attire yet. He's got the fake hair,
the fake green
hair, the Bob Ross hair.
Yeah.
And then he's got his giant fucking clown shoes on, so he looks
and face paint,
like a rent-a-clown basically.
Yeah,
exactly.
Doing. And so he breaks out into this laughter, and these guys notice it, and they take offense to it. They're like, "Hey, well, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck are you laughing at?"
It's so funny.
Which I thought they were gonna turn around and be like, "Oh, you like that?" He's laughing,
right? And then one of the guys starts sliding around the poles, singing, "Send in the clowns."
Yeah,
and that was super ominous to me. I thought that was way cool.
Great choice.
Yeah. And so they finally get up to him.
I kind of doubt any of those guys actually those type of dudes would have known that song. But
you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe their dads were fucking weird.
Maybe their dads were clowns.
Yeah. And so they harass him a little bit, and then they start beating the shit out of him. And what I liked about this scene a lot is that while they're beating the shit out of him, he takes the gun out of his hand, but you never see him point it at them. You see him take it out, and then it just switches to a shot of some dude getting his brains completely blown
it's because the lights on the subway are flashing.
It's dark. They're in a tunnel.
Well,
and then all of a sudden just...
And what I like a lot is how every part of this mirrored the alleyway scene with the kids beating the shit out of him. It's a long, narrow area.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then you've got, several people standing over him. He's just cowering for a minute. But this time he's like, shit, I got a gun.
Because they're not kids, he can do something about it.
Right.
I felt like that too.
And not only that, but another thing to point out is that he's already gotten fucking rocked.
Yeah.
This scene...
He's no longer at the point where he's trying to hold everything together. Everything is already fallen apart.
Well, what I'm getting at is that he's been really hurt.
Yeah.
Because there's this scene and you can see it in the trailer. It fucking looks like he got punched. It's not. This is not acting. This actually looks like the way that his head reacts to the fucking punch to the face. It's that violent like
jerk
back. It looks like he got actually legitimately fucking punched right in the chin. Mm-hmm. So, and he hits the ground. So obviously now his body's in fucking fight or flight. So this it didn't really make sense to me at first, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, obviously he's got the gun now. And that was like one of the moments where I was like, I fucking almost grabbed you because I was like, holy fuck. Because it does not, they go through great lengths to make it seem like he didn't pull out the gun. And then all of a sudden, you fucking remember he has that gun.
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about this too, is the way that this movie handles violence is, number one, widely fucking blown way out of fucking proportion. Like, it is not
right.
It's pretty fucking violent, but it is not like a fucking gore fest like all these media places are making it seem to be.
They definitely walk a line, but it's not glorified.
Like, it's not like people like getting like, it's not like a horror movie gore fest, but when something happens, you fucking see every single second of it.
So that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is that this movie handles violence much akin to the way The Last of Us handles violence. Where you understand that this is fucking heavy. This is heavy shit. This is another life being taken. Like, taken away from somebody. Like, this is not something that, like the thing that I compared to the complete opposite of is Deadpool. Deadpool's like fucking slicing and cutting people and fucking shooting people, and you see the shot of the bullet that entered the guy's brain, and you can see through his brain.
And you're watching Deadpool just like, oh fuck, like
yeah. But violence in this movie has a much more heavier tone to it.
Yeah,
that's why I feel like it works.
Purpose. There's a purpose.
Exactly, it feels like it fucking works. That's my main thing. Is that they're going for a tone, and they just absolutely nailed it. So when that first shot rang out, and it does the blood splatter across the window of the subway train, I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that was insane. And not only that, he continues to brutally fucking murder all three of these people.
A little bit later on, when he finally gets off the train, because there's obviously nobody around, so nobody can is running to the cops about it. But he gets off because the one guy is still alive, and he's crawling away up, and he gets to the bottom part of the stairs, and he goes up and he just puts 4 shots.
He unloads the rest of the gun into him.
Because I'm thinking he's just gonna shoot him, and he's either gonna shoot him or he's just gonna leave him there. But he just walks up and
so
funny story about that is that there were 2 more shots that needed to be in that gun.
Really?
Because it's a 6-shooter, but he shoots 8 times. He shoots the guy once in the face. He shoots the other guy in the chest twice. Shoots the kid, and that's 4 right there. And then when he goes back, he shoots him in the back. And then when he comes back down to him, he shoots him 3 more times before the gun is gone.
Magic bullet.
Magic bullet. It's just like, but yeah, like the from there he runs away, and he's running. He's just
and he's still wearing his clown shoes, which is amazing to me. Yeah. He's running away that fast.
He's running in his clown shoes. He gets into this park bathroom, and this is my favorite. This is my favorite scene in the movie. He just begins this slow, methodical dance, which is completely different from any other dance that he does in the movie, because the other dances that he does, they're kind of just a little quick tempoed. They're a little more movement, but this one, it seems like he's just relishing the moment. So he's gliding, and his arms are slowly widening, and he's moving around. It kind of this is where we start to see the descent.
Fantastic.
Because the way I see it is. So, and I was kind of saying this earlier, but the reason why he didn't do anything when he got his ass kicked the first time is because he's not going to just stand up and pummel a bunch of kids,
Right, exactly.
But now that he's got a means of defense, a bunch of other shit's piling on, he does this. I don't think that he was intentionally wanting to do that, but it was the only way to get him off. So then he takes off, and he's like, what have I done? And then he gets into the bathroom, and then he's just like...
He's in power. He's
like, okay, I'm okay with this.
Here's my opinion of it. I think that at the point where the kids beat the shit out of him and things like that, he's still desperately trying to maintain some semblance of control
or normality.
Exactly. He's trying to play the part of a normal person as best he can. I mean, yeah, he's still super awkward. He still doesn't quite understand how to act like a normal person and social cues, but he's trying really hard. And then I feel once that happens, that is the catalyst to him becoming and accepting who he is, like kind of accepting
exactly,
like and just kind of giving himself over to this mental illness instead of trying to fight it.
Absolutely.
A big thing that we forgot to talk about with the therapist is, well, I mean, we touched upon it, is the fact that they are getting shut down. They've lost funding, and so now
he's
not getting his medication.
Yeah.
So it's not really clear on when he stops taking it, but I feel like it's pretty close to after that visit with the therapist where he's not taking it anymore.
Yeah.
How I feel with the dancing scene in the dirty bathroom is I feel like now he's never felt in more control.
Mm-hmm.
That was his medication.
He felt like, okay, this feels pretty fucking good. I stood up for myself. Like, I'm a strong man. Like, and I feel like him getting his ass kicked by the kids is demoralizing as fuck.
Right.
I didn't really think that he wanted to, like, obviously I felt like he definitely could have, you know, like if you're getting your ass kicked by a bunch of kids, there's very obvious things that you can do.
Right.
Like, you're considerably fucking bigger than them, so you can, there's ways that you can defend yourself. But I think the reason why he didn't is because he wants to be it's going back to the thing with his mother. His mother wants him to be a light. He wants them to. She really, really wants him to be something better than other people.
He's trying to play this part,
but it only comes off as being meek. You know, he's really weak, and that's really all it is. So my interpretation of the dance scene is just he is in power now. He feels this fucking adrenaline of like, okay, I did something that I've never fucking done before, and it feels really good. And he does that almost kind of the same slow dance when he's coming out on the show. Right, when the curtains come across. Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I feel like this dance is kind of like the thing that he's like, all right, I'm the puppet master right now. Like, I feel like I'm in control.
And that's when we get the scene where he goes up to Zazie Beetz' room and he kisses her and he does all of that.
That's the actress's name, not the character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we find out what her name is?
I don't think
I never found out.
I thought we did.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
She had a name in there. But yeah, like.
Yeah. And then she's also in the club.
Right, before all of this happens, though, she's in the club.
So this almost kind of is like a turning point for the movie and for Arthur as well, because now he's like, it almost kind of seems like he's gained a little bit of confidence. Obviously, you know, him fantasizing about going up and having sex with her.
Sophie Dumond.
So, okay, I think I heard Sophie. So, like, it almost kind of seems like this is a turning point for the movie where he's got a little bit of confidence. Because shortly after this scene is where he gains the confidence to go up and do his first thing of stand-up. And not only that, you know, he's, like, inviting her out and blah, blah, blah.
This is still before. Like, the club scene is before all of this stuff happens.
The subway?
Yeah.
No way.
Really?
It's
funny on IMDb, because I'm just looking through the list of actors, and they call the 3 guys that got killed this Wall Street 3.
That's it's a headliner for newspapers. There's a thing where it's the Wall Street 3 murdered by Clown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That must have been a little thing that I missed. But.
Yeah, no, it is, because he's still like meek, and he's still like nervous and stuff like that.
Yeah, because remember that.
Yeah, but at the end of it, he like it's obviously it's an illusion, but he seems like he's like actually putting on a good show.
Right,
like
but
he's
it's still
choking.
Yeah, but it's still a delusion.
Okay.
Because he's like, you know, when she's at the door with him.
Remember that was before he went and macked on her, because you know she had come to his door and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a comedian. You should come check it out."
Huh.
Yeah, and so then you know. She goes to the show, like he imagines her going to the show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and so, you know, then, you know, after the subway scene, all of that, and then where do we go from there?
I feel like
Ryan Callen was in it.
What?
Now thinking back to it, I think he was the guy that was always in the mirror, like constantly.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
He says a few things, but he never turns around.
Yeah, he was in there.
We should talk about when he kills the 3 guys.
Yeah.
Then we get that press conference of Thomas Wayne.
That's right. When it comes out, that's like super fucking important because that's when he calls everyone. Calls him a clown.
Well, he calls everyone who's envious of these Gotham elites. He calls all of these people clowns because don't they know that we're the ones taking care of everything and keeping everything running?
When he gives the press conference, have people already started demonstrating and dressing up yet?
It's more like an interview with a TV personality.
Yeah, I think it's more after that because let's see. Yeah, then demonstrations against the Gotham rich begin. Protesters are now they're now wearing clown masks because of the shooting that happened, and they those 3 business guys, those 3 younger businessmen are all from Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah.
And so they see this as a protest, and just sort of a rally cry to fucking action.
They have the sign that says "Kill the Rich," which is definitely a standout.
And so, of course, he sort of unintentionally becomes the face of this, eat the rich rebellion.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's see. So after that is where we go to the comedy club, and his show goes poorly. He can't even deliver his jokes.
So it does happen after the subway killing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it happens after the subway killing, and then after it like I said, it almost kind of seems like he's got a boost of confidence. That's why he's able to now go up in front of all these people and absolutely bomb, which is another really great scene because he's like trying so fucking hard to say a joke, but he can't even get through. He can't because he's so stressed out, and when he's stressed out, he continues to laugh, and he does the really cool thing where you were saying last episode where he crosses his arms over his face. Like to just try so hard not to laugh. And then and obviously this is part of the illusion, but he starts to get jokes off and he starts to talk about shit, you know what I mean? And then after that, what happens after the fucking comedy club? Is this when...
I think this is where we find out that... Yes, we find out that Thomas Wayne...
Okay, so he comes home from the comedy club and his mother's asleep, right?
Yeah, and on the television, right at that point is when he sees the host make... Well, first he sees the host making fun of him.
No, he sees that when she has the stroke.
So when he comes back, he's seeing the interview with Wayne talking about the clowns and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then he notices... So he puts his mother to bed, and then he notices
then he finds
the letter.
The
letter to Thomas Wayne from... Penny Fleck, which when he opens up gives us some pretty fucking crazy information.
Yeah, she's writing in there this is how me and your son live.
Yeah. It's like talk to you about 3 pages long too.
Yeah,
there's
back
a
and
lot.
front.
And so he loses his mind, right? And she locks herself in the bathroom, and he's banging on the door, and she's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna come out until you're not angry anymore." And it was kind of pretty. It was kind of funny because he was just like, she's like, "I'm not gonna give him out until you're done." He's like, "Okay." And then, and then he comes back and he's like, "Mom, I'm not mad anymore." And so she tells him, yeah, we had you together, and I was supposed to sign I signed some papers. And, because he wants to keep appearances, because what would they say if Thomas Wayne had an illegitimate son?
Right.
And what would they say about me? What would they say about you?
Yep.
And he's just like, well, what would they say? And then from there we go to Wayne Manor.
And immediately after
that's when we go to the mansion.
I love this scene because we get to see the portrayal of a young Bruce Wayne and Alfred.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
yes. So was that supposed to be Alfred?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we get to the front gate, and you see Bruce Wayne playing on a little treehouse almost type of thing. But
it looks like a gazebo.
Yeah, it's
and then in super creep fashion,
Bat cave.
In super creep fashion, Arthur coaxes him over with magic and
yeah, and like one of the cool things that I think is a nod. I don't know if it really is or not, but to me it's a nod to Adam West's Batman when he slides down the pole to get to the gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. Okay.
And so like so he gets to the gate and he does a few magic tricks. He plays with his wand a little and
his actual wand.
Yeah, his actual.
Not his phallic.
A magic wand, yes.
You like magic?
reach into my pocket and grab my wand.
And so he's playing with the magic wand and he hands it to Bruce, and when he hands it to Bruce, it like flops over, and he straightens it.
The
back.
magic wand.
Yeah.
The magic wand went flaccid.
Please. We're being serious.
He actually did that stunt, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit!
What a mad lad, bro.
Anyway, so he gets to the gate and he introduces himself and he's like, "Hi, I'm Arthur. What's your name?" And he's like, and Bruce is like, "I'm Batman," and so
I'm Batman.
Swear to me.
The best Batman.
Where is he?
And so he's playing with him and he does the hook finger smile
to Bruce.
Yeah, to Bruce.
Really weird.
Which is way creepy because he takes his thumbs and does the thing, but he's got his hands like clasped around his head.
So and using his thumbs to do exactly.
And and that's when we get Alfred, who comes out and he's like, "Why are you touching him?
What the fuck do you think you're doing?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Why did you give him these flowers?" He's like, "It's magic. Like I'm not whatever."
Tries to explain himself.
Right, and he's just like, "Well, my name's Arthur Fleck. I'm Penny Fleck's son. I'm here to see Thomas Wayne." And he's just like, "Hey, like, oh, it's you." Like Alfred.
He knows.
Yeah, Alfred knows the situation.
Now get the fuck out.
And he's just like, I know about them. And Alfred's like, there is no them. Like, you should really just leave. And your mother was crazy. She was instituted to Arkham State Hospital and all of that crazy shit. And he grabs Alfred by his like coat and grabs him by the throat and through the gate, and he's like choking him and then just lets him go.
Like, let me in.
Yeah.
Little pig, let me in.
Right? And so like
and then he runs away.
Yeah, he lets him go and just immediately takes off. And then
and then that's when the detectives are like show up asking him Arthur questions.
Right.
So this is when he comes up to his apartment and there's an ambulance there. Because they're wheeling his mother out because she just had the stroke, because the detectives have shown up and are asking about Arthur.
And so he's at the hospital, and this is where we get another delusion of Sophie with him rubbing his back, sitting next to him,
We gotta talk about that fucking awesome moment in the very beginning, because he's out having a smoke in the front part, and the detectives come up to him and asking him questions about, hey, we called your boss, and because they're leading up on every clown thing, right?
Yeah.
So obviously they're gonna go to the haha place and say, and because there's rent-a-clowns there, and he says, hey, your boss said that you got fired because of a gun, blah blah blah, and he's like, comes and says, hey, it's part of my act and shit like that, and he had some great one-liners. I don't really remember what they are, but
because he was like, what did he say? Well, they get up there and they're like, "Hi, Arthur. Like, we're Detective so and so, and we're here to talk to you about the killings." And he's like, "Yeah, horrible. Yeah. That was horrible." And, he's like, "We called your boss, and he said you had a gun." And he was like, "It's a prop for my act."
Yeah.
And he's like, "If you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my mother." And
and he's pissed at him because these are the same detectives that caused his mother to have a stroke.
Right, and so he's getting up to go. And one of them pulls out the card, and he's just like, "This laughing thing is this real or is this an act?" And he's just like, "What do you think?" And he
flicks the cigarette.
Yep. And he flicks the cigarette and walks right into the door.
Yeah.
In a very obviously weird comical moment, because it's like, it almost kind of like every time that they felt like making this guy look cool, they gotta knock him down a peg.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what it felt like.
And so he gets in there, and he's in there, and Sophie's back there, and she's rubbing his back, and she trying to reassure him he's going to be okay. And that's when the Murray Franklin show comes on.
Yep.
And he's making fun of him. He
has his tape. Somebody recorded his stand-up.
They're at the comedy club called Pogo's, which, funnily enough, John Wayne Gacy's clown.
It's a nod to John Wayne Gacy.
Yep. His name is Pogo.
Which is pretty fucked up.
Well, and that's when he's like, yeah, check out this Joker over here, and and like just really denigrating him, and
it just says like basically just saying like, look at this guy trying to cut it.
Yeah.
Like that's really all it is.
One thing that we didn't mention is when he had that flashback of him like going onto the show and like being invited up.
Oh,
by
that's
Murray.
right. That's right. He has a complete delusion where he's in the
at that point, isn't it more of a fantasy than a delusion?
I would say more of a fantasy.
He's more fantasizing about what it would be.
Oh yeah. There where it's like he's in the crowd and he's not. And
he's like, I think of you as a son.
Yeah, like and that very obviously feels like an illusion or a fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. Where he talks to Murray, and Murray's like, I'd give all this up to have a kid like you. You know what I mean? Like, and that's part of the like nod to the King of Comedy.
Okay.
Because in the King of Comedy, the protagonist which is I think Robert De Niro also.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. And he has these like fantasies about this talk show host, and he ends up like kidnapping the talk show host.
Oh, okay.
And so, he just gets, like he says, he gets denigrated, and he's watching him just like, wow, Murray did
Well, I
this
mean, he
thing.
stands up, and the first thing, like, holy shit, I'm on fucking TV.
Yeah, like,
this is really cool.
He was so excited for a moment until he started talking and was just really just giving it.
You can see the happiness leave his face for sure. Then what happens after that?
So after that, we see the public event that Thomas Wayne is speaking at, and Arthur confronts him there.
Right. Yeah. This is where we see
the opera.
Yeah, where we go and see that Charlie Chaplin Modern Times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And
there's like huge amounts of crowds outside of the event protesting and doing the kill the rich and wearing the clown masks and everything. Okay.
Which I bought one of those clown masks.
No shit.
Yeah. I'm gonna wear it for Halloween.
We live in a society, bro.
Yeah.
We live in a society.
And so a little like scuffle happens in the middle of the protest, and it gives him enough time to walk in and dress up like an usher and watch a little bit of Modern Times. So he walks over, he looks over actually, and he sees Thomas Wayne sitting there, and he's getting up to go to the bathroom. So he's like, all right, this is my chance. And he confronts him, and he's just like,
in the bathroom.
Yeah, in the bathroom. He's like, I'm Pennyfleck's son. You're my father, and he's just like, Pennyfleck was delusional.
Yeah, like, and I mean, he was, as, a rich person who typically doesn't have to deal with shit.
Yeah. He
was very abrasive and
short-fused.
Unkind.
Yeah.
And, just like, your mom's fucking crazy and da-da-da-da-da.
Which is a complete 180 from the normal Thomas Wayne we're all used to seeing.
He's absolutely a bad guy.
Yeah, like, the normal Thomas Wayne is a very kind, philanthropic, and he's boots to the ground kind of guy. And Thomas Wayne really seems like this, like, socialite who just doesn't give a shit about anybody. You know? Like, he's like, I've got money and you don't, you're a fucking clown. Like,
exactly.
And so he tells him, like, no, bro, you were adopted and abused as a child. Like, you really, like, I'm not your father.
Yeah, your mom's fucking crazy. She spent time in the psych ward.
Yeah, he alludes to the fact that she spent time in the asylum.
Yeah.
In Arkham Asylum. So then, I mean, obviously there's a little bit more that happens is, he Arthur starts to act a little bit more crazy. He's like actually calling him Dad now.
And Thomas just squares up and knocks him right in the
punches
fucking
him
face.
right in the face.
Because he started laughing. Like, he started stress laughing.
Yeah.
And so, Thomas punches him in the mouth or in the nose. And, we cut over to Arkham State Hospital, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's going to get the records about his mom.
He's trying to find out, like, who's fucking telling the truth.
Right.
And so, he goes there, and there is, in fact, a record, and the guy's holding on to it, and he's like, but, I can't release this to you. Like, just bring your mom and have her sign this so that I can give this to you.
So there's a part in this scene that I find really compelling is where he slips up. Arthur slips up and almost kind of alludes, is seeming like, hey, I did some really bad shit. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I fucked up. I did some really bad shit. But he never really tells the guy, hey, I killed people.
Well, and then that's when the guy's pretty much like, I'm not really a therapist. I just work the desk. So if you want to talk to someone.
And then he goes, but they cut that.
Right. He makes like a hand puppet and he's like, those were cut though.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is when he steals the
file.
I feel like that.
Why is it? How does he get? Because like the guard gets or the desk guy gets
he just grabs it and they have a tug of war.
They have a tug of war, and then he headbutts the window and it startles the dude.
Well, but he's holding on to it, and doesn't he like look over for a second, and then that's when he goes and reaches for it.
So he's doing some really weird shit because Arthur's face is like almost like pressed against the grate, and he's like looking at him, like giving like him a weird look, and then it like cuts to Arthur's face and he's like, what? Like, why are you looking at me like that? And then that's when the tug of war goes.
I feel like this is like a moment where, because his mannerisms and stuff, you can tell that he's like freaking out, and I feel like this is when he's like almost successfully suppressing that laugh, because he's fidgeting and he's like, trying to get around it.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
And so he gets away and he opens the file to see all of these papers that confirm that he was adopted. Not only adopted, but abused. And so we go to these flashbacks of Penny saying, like, no, this is Thomas's kid. Like, this isn't, and they're like, no, you were this, that, and the other. This is what happened, which is what makes me feel like it was all doctored, is because they were telling her what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were like, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. No, this is what's going on. This is how.
Because it could totally go either way. But
that's how I feel.
Out of anyone, if someone could go into, like, have the resources to have you committed and drug you up and make you unsure of what happened yourself. Like, it's got to be someone rich and powerful like Thomas Wayne.
One of the confirming factors for me is, after he finds all this out, and he's like sitting at what appears to be his mom's armoire, or what the like a dresser with the mirror or whatever.
Yeah.
Vanity. That's what I wanted to say. I don't know why I said armoire.
Because you're dumb.
Fuck you.
Because he made a Seinfeld reference earlier.
Yeah.
The armoire.
When he's at her vanity, he's holding a picture of her, and she's super young, and she turns it over, and there's writing behind it, and the writing reads, "Love your smile, TW."
Get the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that shit up. Let me see that. Because if that's real, then that's what they're going for. Because I totally disagree. I don't think that I think that his mother was crazy and she dreamed up this weird affair with Thomas Wayne, and then, but like, that's really what happened is that he was adopted and he got the shit kicked out of him by his stepdad.
And as many issues as she has physically and everything later on in life, like, why doesn't she seem crazy now?
Well, I mean, she kind of is, though, and she's also probably heavily medicated.
Well, true.
Like, because at this point she is elderly, and elderly people get more, obviously elderly people get more care than normal people.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that her medication didn't ever get cut back and blah, 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 blah. So I would imagine that this is how I see it, is that he is definitely an adopted child, and the reason why he has so many mental issues is because he says in that interview, that weird like flashback interview with a young Penny Fleck and the one guy, the guy that's interrogating her, is the guy fucking bashed him in the head. Like, the kid is suffering from massive fucking head trauma. So that's what makes me believe is that is where all of his mental issues is coming from. And then when the whole thing where it's like, okay, obviously, if there's anybody that can sweep this under the rug like Thomas Wayne, I do think he swept it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he had her sign some shit saying that she wasn't going to fucking bug him anymore.
Well, that's when she said, because that's what she told him in the bathroom, like, I signed some papers.
Because he can't handle this shit. If this got out, it would totally ruin his reputation.
Right.
So I definitely think, like, maybe this is like a restraining order.
Yeah, and I mean, he just kind of, after that, of course he's not going to help them because he's trying to separate himself from any connection to them. Like, he's not going to necessarily help him out, give him some money, get him a good place. Like, if you're separating like that, like, he wants no connection to be able to be found or discovered.
Because it's a really bad fucking thing to happen for somebody in his place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Because, I mean...
See, like, okay, so one of the... it's like an article. A hint that Penny and Thomas really did have an affair comes late in the movie when he looks at a photo of a younger Penny with a handwritten note on the back. Love your smile, TW.
Okay. We'll have to watch it again and see if it's there.
Because, yeah.
Because if that's a real fuck... Well, maybe not only that, but maybe it's just like him being nice.
Well, how many women do you tell them that you love their smile?
Well, he's also, considering the massive amount of information that we already know about Thomas Wayne from the other side of the story with Bruce, is that yes, he's
philanthropic.
Yeah, he's that, and he's very kind, and he's just a really cool guy. So what if he's just that way? I can definitely see your point of view, but that's my opposing view. Is like,
plus,
maybe...
I mean, we do see him in public calling poor people clowns. Like, he's clearly not...
True.
Like,
he's clearly a jackass.
Yeah, here's the thing.
It's a breadcrumb trail.
You can create, a fucking really nice little... what's the word I'm looking for? Charity, and you can be very financially philanthropic.
So how
but you
old
can
is
still be a
Arthur?
complete son of a bitch.
So how old is Arthur?
Arthur, isn't he like in his early 30s?
Yeah.
Is what it is.
So that means, how old is Thomas Wayne?
Thomas Wayne is like probably 60s.
60s?
Yeah. But
I just wouldn't imagine him being that much older than Bruce. Because at that point, when Bruce becomes the Batman, that means the Joker's like 60, 70 years old?
Well, no, there's only like 20 years that go by.
Yeah.
Like, so he'd be in his late 40s, 50s even.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like I say, you can be as philanthropic financially as you want to be. That doesn't mean you're not a bastard.
It's definitely a breadcrumb trail
Yeah.
to lead to other things for sure.
That's what at least confirms it for me, because it's just like, there's nobody that, tells you, oh, I love your smile, without there being any kind of,
deep connection.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just because I say that to a woman doesn't mean I want to fuck her. You know what I mean? I'm not 100% sold. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, you just want to keep your theory and make it right. That's fine.
No, I think it's really cool to make the Joker and the Batman.
Well, that's
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's where they're going. Like, yeah. I think it is a cover up, because if it wasn't, then there wouldn't be that flashback of her being told what happened, because she wasn't delusional. She wasn't crazy before then. She didn't have any signs of mental illness until this unraveled.
Okay. Which I'm sure it was nothing more than, they were having a fling, she got pregnant by mistake, and fuck, now what do I do?
Right, and so now all of this is being built up as, oh, she's crazy, that's not my son, let's put her in Arkham State Hospital, let's medicate her, let's tell her, if we tell her enough, condition her enough to tell her the things that actually happened, then, they can do that, which also explains her behavior as being like, no, Thomas is a good man, Thomas will help us, Thomas will do this, that, and the other, because she knows him on that personal level to where, he knows he'd treat her right.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes her so desperate to reach out to him, because she still has this in her head, this image of him in her head that was like them during their fling or whatever.
Now, due to all of this that he discovers in the hospital, or in the Arkham State Hospital, now he's got beef with his mom.
Right.
Oh, does he?
Ma, we got beef.
Ma, the meatloaf.
That real Wendy's beef right there.
Yeah.
Where's the beef?
Fresh, never frozen.
And we're in the hospital, and she's laying there, and she's kind of moving. She's just there.
At first, it didn't look like she was conscious, but like you see her like slowly blink. So
yeah, you see her like
she's really
blinking.
frail.
Yeah,
and she's just in a really bad condition. And so here we get this monologue about how, what, my life was a comedy all
I always
along.
used to think that my life was a tragedy.
Yeah,
but now I realize that it's a fucking comedy. Which is awesome, because in the trailer he doesn't say fucking, but in the actual movie he does, and I'm like, ooh, okay, that's cool.
So he grabs a pillow and he smothers his mother.
Smother your
the
mother.
old mother smother.
You mother smother.
You mother smother.
I mean, mother.
It did kind of bother me, because isn't she hooked up to a breathing device?
Right. Exactly. I don't know if they had flatlining in the 80s.
But like,
well, the machine didn't flatline.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, she was hooked up. Right, and that's true.
So like, how are you going to smother a bitch that's got a breathing tube?
Maybe she didn't.
She did. There was a fucking
Yeah,
tube.
there was a tube in her nose.
You just hear this like.
Well, yeah, but you could probably still.
Nice try, motherfucker.
You could probably still obstruct that.
Yeah.
Try, mother smother.
After the smothering, he goes into his house and he takes all the shelves out of his refrigerator, and he just like locks himself in it, and then immediately like just cuts over to phone ringing. And, he lets it go to voicemail, because at this point the detectives are trying to reach him. They've left voicemails for him, so they're trying to reach him.
Showed up random places.
One of them is a voicemail from them.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And then the producer calls.
Yeah, right. And so she produces the Murray Franklin show. And she's calling him and she's leaving him this message, so he gets up, he grabs it, and
Let us not forget that he's in the fucking bedroom with the gun, with his hand down his pants, laying in bed.
Yeah. And so, he answers the phone, and she, in so many words, it's like, hey, want to come on the Murray Franklin show? We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. You want to get on the Murray Franklin show? And he's like, well, the Murray Franklin show wants me. And she's like, yeah, isn't that great?
See, and at this point, I wasn't quite sure yet that it wasn't another delusion.
Right, same here, and so he's like, yeah, I can do that, and, so how's next Thursday? And he's like, yeah, cool, and so it cuts from there. Where do we go from
Well, no, because, like, we're still in the apartment, because this is when
the two
co-workers, the old co-workers come by.
Well, no, that's the day of the Murray Franklin show.
Well, here it just says.
So then that's where we cut.
Well, it says, so as he prepares. So he's getting ready for the show, because it kind of just skips ahead in time.
He's putting on he's in the process of putting on the white face paint too.
Right, and so,
that scene where he's putting it on, and he just like puts the entire paintbrush in his mouth.
Well, and
he
licks it, and then he rubs it on his tongue.
And
it's so great, because which one's which? Let's see, Randall's
the big guy.
And I love how Randall's like, oh, did you get another gig? Because he's got the face paint, and he's like, no.
He's like, no, my mother died, I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, he's like, well, that's why we came.
And this is when we get probably the most haunting fucking image of him, is when he's got his hands, like, across, like he's standing in a doorway, and his hands are, like, on both sides of the walls, and his face is white, and he like is like barely looking up, and you can like see his fucking eyes, and his eyes are like black with the white face, and his hair's dripped over him. I'm like, Jesus.
You gotta remember too when they knock on his door, he's in his room doing the makeup, and I think he yells like, "I'm coming," and then he like puts the scissors in his back pocket.
Right, and so he answers the door, and out come Randall and Gary. And they're, in come Randall and Gary, and they're like,
like walk out of his house. Like.
Right, yeah.
They all just go out into the hallway.
You want us to go out and then come in?
And so, they're talking and stuff, and they're like, hey, the cops came by, and they were like, fucking...
asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, so Randall's like, what did you tell them?
Before this, what we skipped over is... or maybe we haven't yet, when after he gets fired and he's like cleaning his stuff
out. That's right.
And he's like, did you really have a gun? He's like, maybe you should ask Randall about that.
It was his gun.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had some pretty good one-liners in there, and that's when he's like walking out.
He's like, I forgot to punch out.
And then,
he just destroys
it. That's right.
And then isn't that also where
he crosses out the forget on don't forget.
He never don't forget to smile.
He crosses out
the
forget to.
Yeah.
And it just says don't smile.
Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, we need to get our story straight because you're my boy and this and that. And that's when he realizes that he's not there for him. He's there
for Randall.
Yeah, he's there to cover himself.
And Arthur's kind of doing this like, yeah, because I'm your boy. He's like agreeing with them.
Yeah.
Then
when you didn't own up to the gun, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
he's aware. He's aware.
Oh yeah.
And so he once he realizes that Randall's just there to save his ass, he just jabs him in the neck with the scissors twice, and then one time right in the eye.
Now, the best part of this. So when he lets Randall and Gary in, he locks the top lock.
That's right.
On their way in.
Yep.
And so he kills the only other dude apart from himself who can reach that lock.
I don't think he had any intention to kill the little guy.
I don't think he did either, but they very intentionally did that to fuck with the audience.
I think he really wanted to, because they said, he was like, yeah, you're the only one that's ever been nice to me,
Yeah.
So I think he just kind of wanted to really make him shit his pants.
I think he was always planning on getting revenge on Randall, but now he's like, okay, now he's in my apartment, now I can do this, and so he locks the door. Yeah, I think that his intention was always to kill Randall.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but it definitely, because when they first arrived, I was like, oh fuck, he's gonna kill him.
He's
probably gonna let Gary go, but then he locked the top lock, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Well, after he kills his mother, something switches in his brain. He's a different person now. I feel like this is the Joker has blossomed at this point, but not at its full potential.
Well, after killing his mother, that's the only thing that he has that grounded him.
Yeah, that was tethering him to.
Yeah, they're keeping him tethered to reality, so he's already lost his job, and that's another tether lost. He's, he's been made fun of by his idol, Murray Franklin.
It's like he was this, I'm going to just compare it to a giant balloon animal that's tied to the ground with stakes, and each thing that happens to him, a string is just getting clipped.
Yeah, exactly. And so killing his mother was the last tether. So now he's free to just be whatever he wants.
Again, to point out my previous thought of how it handles violence, it's not just he stabs him and he's dead on the ground. No, his blood is everywhere. Yeah, there's a huge fucking stain on the wall next to him.
And I love how they just had it. He's got the white makeup on, but it was
he's
red
splinters. He's sitting down on the ground, leaning against the
Gary
against the wall, and he's just his chest. It's mostly his chest, but he does have blood splatter on his face. But it's mostly his chest is just covered with Randall's blood.
And because after that, after he stabs him twice, he jams his head into the.
Oh, that's fucking right. Yeah, that's why there's so much blood on the wall.
Yeah, because he's jamming it.
Just smashing the fuck out of his face.
Right, and so he just ends up sitting in his blood.
So now poor Gary,
the midget,
thinks he's next.
The little
first
person.
off.
I legitimately was scared and like felt bad for him.
Yeah, me too.
Not Joker, but Gary.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
Because he was like scrambling and frantically like.
And he was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" Like he was. Of course.
I like the way that they handled this part because there was that. You kind of wanted to say, like, of course he's not going to kill him, but oh fuck, he might.
Oh yeah. Well, and then he does the whole jump scare at Gary, you know, just to fuck with him. Because at this point, I mean, yeah, he's not going to kill him, but that doesn't mean he's not unhinged.
Socialism.
So he jumps out at him, and then he's like, "Nah, you can."
That's all I can think of when I think of that scene is just
you'll never be a real person.
The Bernie Sanders.
But yeah, no, like so then he goes to open the door, and he's like, "Can you get the lock?"
And our crowd that was there was just roaring and laughing.
Oh yeah, we were that's messed up. We did though.
And, I mean, it's sad, but it's like also at the same time, it's like that's some weird fucking.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also it's so uncomfortable that you can't help but laugh to kind of just break up the mood. Like,
and then, well, it's funny because he opens the door and he like pats him on the back. He's like, "All right, we'll see you later."
He's just so nonchalant.
Very cordial.
All right, see you on Monday.
He's so nonchalant about it. Like, "All right, well, have a good one, buddy."
Did we gloss over the Thomas Wayne socking him in the face?
Yeah,
no, we went over it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is where he goes into full Joker garb. He's got the full face paint on. He does this little montage of him dyeing his hair, which it doesn't really ever look like it's green, but it is green because he's got like the streaks of water going down his face that are green. And he's like, there's a cool song playing. He's kind of dancing.
He's going down the stairs.
Oh, the stairs.
The stairs, bro.
Which I noticed something. In the beginning, when he goes up the stairs to head to his apartment, it's dark and cold.
Yes, I've done this too. Yeah.
And he's going up.
He's hunched over, his head's down.
He's going down. But when he's finally himself,
dissenting.
Yeah, when he's dissented, when he's fully confirmed the Joker, he's dancing down the steps. It's a bright day.
It's playing that one song that everybody is like freaking the fuck out about because the guy touched a kid fucking 30 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Like it's like the game that you hear at every fucking football game ever. Like he's just like doing this.
Hey!
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the best parts of the movie is just because it's very thematic. It's him descending down these stairs like, hey, you know what? This is fucking me, and it's really cool, like him splashing the water and everything. And
like
then
he finally feels free.
Yeah.
And he gets down to the bottom. And which is it's funny because he just got done murdering someone.
Yeah.
But he gets close to the bottom, and then you see like in the background, way out of focus,
I love that shot.
That was fucking cool.
Yeah.
Two other cinnamon buns. Cinnamon toast crunch. Cinematography shots that were really fucking cool that we like never really got into was the one of it looked like one of the train tracks. It's like obviously a drone shot.
Yeah.
And it looks like the train is like right in the middle, going right up, like right in the middle of the city. I think that's really cool. And then there's that really cool scene where, again, at the very top, he's in the train, but the train's like on the very edge of the screen, and it's just like a big waterfront.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
One of my favorite like shots also was of him at the very back of the bus.
Oh yeah.
And they're crossing the bridge or whatever because it's still daytime. But they're like everything in the bus is so dark.
There's some cool shit in this movie.
Yeah. The cinematography in this movie, like I said in the last episode, is
and then
above and beyond.
We mentioned the detectives having the card, and again, I might have been on my phone at this point, but when he's trying to make the kid laugh on the bus, and the lady's like, "Don't touch my kid," or "Don't bother him."
Yeah, don't bother.
And then he starts laughing, and he hands her the card.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when she flips it over, it says, like, please return this card, but she never did.
Yeah, no, that bitch took the card.
I'm gonna take this.
No, she didn't.
She didn't give it back.
He
show
had
her
the card later on.
Well, yeah, but they never showed her giving it back, so maybe he might have.
He never shows the card ever again.
Yeah,
The
because
detectives
he was pulling it out to show to the guys in the subway.
No, he was trying to open his bag
to get the card.
Yeah, I guess maybe he has a bunch of those cards.
I don't.
I'm just saying it didn't show her.
It didn't show her
handing
giving
it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go to the show.
Well, no, he's running away. He's running away from the detectives.
There's all the clowns that are dressed up at this point on the subway, and he just kind of slips into them and.
Yeah, and the fucking cop shoots one of the protesters, and that's how he gets away.
And then, like, all of the protesters are like, "All right, fuck you."
And he does this really cool shot where he's like, all the officers are rushing in to, see what the fuck's going on,
and he's just kind of swag walking.
Well, because he has that, he grabbed that mask too out of the.
Well, he took it off and put it in the trash before he went upstairs.
He put it on when he was in the subway car to blend in with everyone else.
Yeah. And so he's just kind of swag walking away, like. And then, now from here, we get to the Murray Franklin show, and he's written on the mirror of the green room, put on a happy face.
Which I thought it was "Don't forget to smile."
I'm pretty sure it was "put on a happy face."
It's one of those two.
The masks that they're wearing on the subway, just to go back to that really quick, like, there's no way that's not a nod to Heath Ledger's Thugs from the
Well, I mean, even Joker's face paint
is exactly like those masks.
Yeah. And so, he's got that, and it says, put on a happy face, and...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah,
and then doesn't he do that in the dressing room?
Yeah, he does it in the dressing room. Yeah, he does the Gwynplaine... and we get
the whole talk show is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
I agree. So in comes Mark Maron and Murray Franklin, and De Niro, and like, hey, what's with the face paint? Are you all about this? And he's like, I don't believe in any
I'm not
of that.
Political.
Yeah, he's like, I don't believe in that. Like, it's just part of my gag, And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, no, that's cool. We can run with that. And he's like, hey, Murray, like, when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker? And, Mark Maron's sitting there like, well, what's wrong with your real name? And he's just like, well, that's what you called me. You called me a Joker. He's like, did I? He's like, I don't fucking know.
And so he's very flippant about the whole thing. Like, he has absolutely no understanding that, that A, this guy is unhinged, obviously, like, because how would he know that? But B, like, he has no idea that what he said on the show previously affected him, Arthur, this heavily.
Yeah.
And, I feel like he should have gotten an inkling of that when he asked to be called Joker. Yeah. But, again, he was like, what? Did I say that? Whatever.
He should have had some idea that he said that because, like, they called him, and when they called him, they were like, everyone loved your clip. Like, let's bring you back on. So, like, he had to have known that, like, what he was saying about him.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it was just like, like, he was just trying to play it off like, I didn't say that. Like, I'm a great guy.
And I just don't think that he understood that there would be any consequences of making fun of him.
Right. And so, they're like, all right, cool, we'll see you out there. No off-color jokes, no nothing of the sort. Yeah. Like, we're a clean
family
show. Yeah, we're a clean show. It cuts to them, being introduced, and he's talking to the Dr. Ruth-like character, the old lady that's the sex expert, you know what I mean? Like, and he's just right off the bat, he's very engaging. Mm-hmm.
He's totally not like he was at the club.
Well, and it's cool because, like, right before he's going, we get that silhouette of him, like, just in a pose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going back to how he's not like he was at the club is because he's in full on, like,
exactly.
I know what I'm doing now. Like, I don't have
he's like finally comfortable in his own skin, and
he hasn't uncontrollably laughed in a minute at this point.
So really quick before we go on to where you're going, there was the scene that we skimmed over where he was practicing what he was going to do when he was on this show.
Oh yeah, right.
And he was planning on killing himself in front of everybody.
But that whole pantomime was like
chilling.
Yeah, he was going to do the thing where he was going to say, hey, do you want to hear one of my jokes? And he was going to say, knock, knock, and then poof, just blow his brains out.
Right. And so, we get back, and, the thing about, like, Murray Franklin's color scheme, it's almost like the Johnny Carson show.
It is, yeah.
And so, like,
I think that might have been what they were, like, kind of trying to play to.
I'd imagine.
Because, like, in the time, like, Johnny Carson was the biggest 80s host of late night, and so now that's what Murray Franklin is.
Right, exactly, yeah. So I'd imagine that was it. And so, they open, and he comes in, and he does his little dance. He's
got a cigarette, of course.
Right, and he's like, he shakes Murray Franklin's hand, and he kisses Dr. Sally.
Right on the mouth.
Right on the mouth, and, the interview starts, and he's just, it's like, hey, what's with this? What's with the stick? What's with the gag? And he's just like, oh, this is just me. This is just who I am. And, he tries to tell a few jokes, and Murray's...
Which are, like, really creepy, morbid sort of jokes.
Right. And
he asks him again, about, are you demonstrating something?
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, he was like, is this political? He goes, no, this is just me. This is just who I am. He tells that crazy knock-knock joke where he's just like, your son's in the hospital, he's dead. He's like, we don't tell those kinds of jokes. You know what I mean? And then, that's when he starts flying off the handle. Like, you know what? Like, if it was, like, he admits to killing
Yep.
He admits to killing the guys, and, Murray's like, what? You think that's funny? He goes, yeah, it's funny. He's like, if I were laying dead on the ground, you guys wouldn't care.
And the thing that I loved about this whole dialogue at this point right here is Murray Franklin's not just like, get the fucking cops in here, get this guy out of here.
He hasn't broken character.
He's talking to him. He's trying to, like, still carry on the interview.
Yeah, fucking Dr. Phil is that.
Well, and I mean, and like at this point, like, he knows if he's telling the truth. He doesn't actually know if, this guy legitimately killed those people.
Like I said, he hasn't broken character. Yeah. The guy's still putting on this show.
Right, and so, you can see that later on he's starting to get a little angrier. He's, Murray's starting to get a little more, like, over it.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, you know what? Let's just cut this here. And he's like, wait, no, you want to hear another joke? And they're like, no more jokes. He's like, what do you get when you cross an angry loner who's in the middle of a society that's forgotten about him?
And this is where I thought he was going to do what he was pantomiming.
He was going to kill himself, right? He's like, you get what you fucking deserve. And he pulls the gun out and shoots Murray right in the face.
And the blood splatter all over his name, like his logo all over the wall.
And when he knocks back, he's like still like in a sitting upright position.
Yeah. And so, he gets up and he lets 2 more shots into his chest. And, he grabs the camera and he goes, that's it for tonight, folks. And don't forget, that's life. And it, like, cuts off.
No, it cuts him off.
Yeah, it cuts him off prior to finishing
before saying it. So it's like another one of those weird, like, we can't let him have this. Yeah. Like, it won't let him have a whole moment.
Well, and this is the part that I love, the callback that I love, is after he leaves and gets arrested and he's in the back of the cop car and they do that really nice little scene of him going through the city, a la, fucking Heath Ledger.
Heath
Ledger. Like, that was really, really fucking
cool. And I like how, because even in that shot, it kind of shows the two spectrums of each one, because Heath Ledger is like outside like a dog, and he's just like somberly like in the back of the car.
Well, not even that. He's just kind of looking outside and smiling.
He's just chilling.
Yeah, he's just sitting there.
He's very, very happy with what he's done.
Yeah.
Oh, before we forgot to talk about when he walks into Sophie's room. In Sophie's
apartment. Holy fuck! Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things of the whole movie.
That's a big reveal.
Yeah, so
it's right after he found out the truth about his mom.
Yeah, because that's when it all just went to shit.
Yeah, and so he goes
right before he kills her too.
He goes into her apartment, and like she's talking to her daughter, sending her to sleep. He comes back. And she's startled. She goes, "What are you doing?"
Well, because he's just like sitting on the couch,
right? And she's like, "What are you doing here? Your name's Arthur, right?" Like,
and that's the big like.
So because when he's walking in at first, you're thinking like, "Oh, he's going there for comfort."
Yeah.
And then And then it's really kind of cool because she gets scared because of course she's gonna get fucking scared because he wasn't there before. And then she hits you with the line, "Hey, your name is Arthur, right?"
Because
you
at
know,
first you're
like, holy fuck!
At first you
everything
think that it's like, "Oh, you scared me, Arthur," and then like she come over and talk to him, but no, it's just like different direction.
Yeah. Yeah, like she, you know, she's like, "Hey, can I call your mother?" And he says, "I had a bad day." And I think that's a callback to the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, you know, all it takes is one bad day.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, he's you know, he gets captured, he gets put into the cop car.
He gets
captured, he gets put.
I'm sorry. Go.
He gets captured. He gets put into the cop car, you know, and he's walking around. There are people walking around, rioting, everybody in masks, and he's starting to smile, and he's starting to giggle, and he's starting to laugh. And the cop's like, he's like, "Hey, what are you laughing for? This is because all this happened because of you." He goes, "I know. Isn't it wonderful?" And then smash.
Yep.
You know, this big ambulance gets like, you know, intercepts the car, T-bones it. And, you know, Joker's the only one that made it out. And I like that shot because it's like when they open the ambulance and, you know, he like this dude comes out, you know, and it almost like goes back to like Batman the Animated Series, you know what I mean? Like, it's the boss. Let's get him out of the car. You know what I mean? Like,
and they pull him out like very like they're not just like get him out. They like gently pull him out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what?
And they don't just like rushedly pull him out. You know, like oh my god. They like gently pull him out. Like this is our guy.
This is our Messiah.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of like the way that certain, and I don't remember what it was, but I know I've seen this in several places, but where, you know, like a badly beaten superhero is, you know, helped out of a, you know, situation like that. Yeah. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. That's exactly what it was.
Yep.
They as a crowd lift him up and pull him out of danger and then, you know, lay him out and try and give him room. And like, that's exactly like the level of reverence they had for him.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, you know, he gets put on the
I take back the talk show is my second favorite. This end part is by far my favorite scene.
Right. And so, you know, riots are happening around him, and, you know, we cut to this theater where they're playing Zorro and the Gay Blade. You know,
Zorro and the Gay Blade was so great. I remember that movie.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
Which is also a callback to the begin to like another Batman origin where they were watching The Mask of Zorro.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, you know, and Zorro and the Gay Blade came out in 1981. So it was
okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, we show out that, you know, Thomas and Martha Wayne are coming out with Bruce, and they go into the alley, and somebody sees him going into the alley, and he goes, you know, hey Wayne,
get what you fucking deserve.
Yeah, you get what you fucking deserve. And he pops him, and he pops Martha and takes her pearls.
I love how they kept doing. They called back to the grabbing the pearls.
I love how that's like an actual thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's
cool.
And which at this point changes the dynamic already. Because
it's something that Joker did
yeah.
that directly affects him. It's not just some random fucking thug on the street anymore.
And that's what I love is that, you know, normally you have the concern. One of the classic tropes of comics and superheroes is that the superhero inadvertently creates the villain. That's a very common thing.
Right.
And here we have a reversal of that.
Yeah.
Where the fucking villain is creating Batman.
Yeah.
Not directly, but, you know.
I really, really love this. I think that this is probably the coolest fucking thing out of this entire movie is how it is carving its own little place in DC comic history.
Yeah.
I love
this.
wasn't expecting that scene like at all, just from like everything I'd heard and seen.
Mm-hmm. Because we have always thought that the Joker is Batman's nemesis. Like, whether or not it was confirmed or whatever, it's pretty common knowledge that, like after the Killing Joke, this is Batman's main dude. This is the guy that's always giving him shit. Like, this guy's gonna keep fucking coming back until Batman eventually fucking kills him. And he won't. And I really, really love this idea. And what really kind of just cemented the fuck out of this for me is because obviously the killing of Batman's, Bruce's parents, it had a major fucking effect on him. But they went a step further with this, where the first shot that went into Thomas Wayne, the blood splatter went on Bruce's face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they are really, they fucking get it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, this is how it's going to look when your fucking parents are murdered in front of you. Like, I really, really love that this movie, and God, I hope they take it and just fucking run with it, because that dynamic between Batman and Joker has always been the most compelling aspect of Batman for me.
It's just like I said, like if they don't use this as their Iron Man, like DC's dead in the water.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is really cool because
they'll just keep stumbling over themselves for time and eternity if they don't.
From here, the Joker, kind of comes back. You know what I mean? He gets, he comes into consciousness, stands up over the taxi, grabs his blood from his nose
right here,
and creates this smile.
So that was my favorite part of the whole movie.
It's fucking amazing.
And
and then he starts dancing on the hood.
He's dancing on the hood, and everybody's just watching and adoring him. And then
he's finally gotten what he's always wanted.
He's finally gotten what he always wanted, and the screen goes black, and then it's him laughing again, and he is where we would assume is Arkham Asylum, but like now measured as Arkham Asylum, because if you think about it, Arkham State Hospital had these dingy yellow walls, had these like gross yellow walls that looked all dirty, dilapidated, all fucked up.
Yeah.
But when we're in Arkham now, it's white walls and everything's clean and everything seems
very bright,
sterilized.
Wasn't there? I could just be speaking about the Arkham games, but I don't know if this was ever like a story arc, but because I know what happened in the games, but I wonder if they are kind of coyly playing off of like Thomas Wayne, like how he like rebuilt Arkham.
Yeah, well that's where I think that this is just a little more in the future now. Like, contained the whole riots, and they've it could just be me. That's just my interpretation.
We need a better place to hold these crazy.
Because it's not like they're gonna recapture him, throw him in a room, and immediately have a psychiatrist there going, okay, well, so anyway, now that we've caught you again, let's sit down for a session.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I assume that this is more in the future, and this is now Arkham Asylum instead of Arkham State Hospital. And he's laughing uncontrollably, and we go to another doctor, and she's like, well, what's so funny? He goes, it's just a joke, I thought of.
Yeah, no, he's like, you wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't get it.
He's like, it's a joke. And then she says, well, tell it to me. And then
you're right.
She's like, tell me the joke. And he's like, well, you wouldn't get it.
But he's thinking about Bruce. He's thinking about Bruce and how Bruce's parents fucking died that way.
Yeah, and so
his actions was what caused the death of the Waynes.
Right, exactly. And so, he's he starts to sing That's Life. And then
and he's singing along to the score in the movie.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah, which I think was way cool. But he was still singing it in his own way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, then it cuts to the outside of the room, and he's walking away from it, and there are blood prints.
Like as he's walking, he's got bloody footprints.
Yeah, and, it's a funny little, like, at the end where he's...
It's like a Scooby-Doo chase at the end.
And then, boom, the end. And fucking, Cole tried to start the slow clap.
I did, and other people clapped too. Thank you very much. Go fuck yourself.
I gave you a few courtesy claps.
I don't give a fuck if anybody else fucking clapped. I don't give a shit, dude. I fucking clapped because I loved this fucking movie. I thought it was great.
It was amazing, dude. It is nothing short of a masterpiece in my opinion. I think that, like I said, if they don't use this as their Iron Man, as their jumping point to start a dark, gritty DC universe, I think that DC is dead in the water.
And it makes fucking sense too, because Marvel started with a hero, and DC should start with a villain.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It should definitely be that.
Just fucking start over, DC.
So I'd say 5s across the board.
Oh God,
I loved it.
I thought a 10 out of 5.
Yeah, right. Like we think this movie is amazing. If you stuck around this long, you've seen the movie. Let us know. Let us know what you think. You know this.
And I've had some people ask me, because when I posted that we saw it on Facebook, I had some people ask me like my friend who's got a kid. She's like, She's like, I know what people have been saying. Like, my kid's seen Deadpool. Should I take my kid to see this? And I'm like, it's not the same R-rated as Deadpool. Like, I would see it first, and then you decide.
Yeah.
So, just as a fair warning, like.
Yeah, honestly, like, well, I mean, if you've made it this far, you know, like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's pretty disturbing and.
Right. But. That concludes our Joker spoiler cast. Spoiler cast. Well, this concludes our Joker spoiler cast.
Spoilers.
As always, you can follow us on social media.
On Facebook at the Nerd Corporation, a podcast.
On Twitter and Instagram at Nerdcore Podcast.
Or you can shoot us an email at nerdcorppodcast@gmail.com.
Don't shoot us.
Shoot him like the Mari Povich.
And if you wanted to...
You are not the Joker.
You did not live in a society. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
And if you want to descend into madness with us, consider subscribing to our Patreon. Patreon.com/Nerdcorp Podcast. Several tiers of loot to have access to, from stickers and shirts to extra content and bonus episodes.
Give us your money!
And if you can't make a monthly commitment, consider donating to our PayPal. PayPal.com/Nerdcorp Podcast. We want to have the best equipment, best merchandise, and best loot for you, and that's the best way to do it. So for the Nerd Corporation, my name is Eddie Lyon.
I'm Cole Simper.
I'm Nick Lewis. Oh,
and I'm
shit.
Nick Lewis.
I'm Tits.
And I'm Nick Lewis.
And
Tits McGee is off on vacation.
And I'm Derek Reese.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
You're obligated fucking anchor.
Oh, you're fired.
Boop, boop.